Hey everybody, Cole here with Classic Mini DIY, and on today's episode we are going to be installing a standard steering drop bracket from JB Fabrication. So stay tuned. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen on the market, there are a ton of different steering drop brackets. There are ones that are relatively inexpensive, and there are ones that are outrageously expensive. And the main thing about steering brackets is you want something that is strong, and you want something that is going to provide you the adjustability that you're looking for. So depending on how much lower you want your steering system to be, close, it basically moves the wheel lower down into a little bit more desirable position. The current placement of the mini steering wheel is very, very high from the factory, and in addition to that, if you have the original wheel, it's just big. It's big and up high and kind of in an awkward position. So the steering brackets that are sold, these drop brackets, are aimed to lower the steering column so it is in a nicer position. And the nice thing about this one right here, this is from a company called JB Fabrication. I picked this up a couple weeks ago. And the nice thing about this bracket is that, one, it's not a fortune. It's really, really affordable. And it's simple. This works with all year minis. And in today's episode, I'm going to show you guys the process of removing the existing steering column, how to loosen your steering rack so that you are able to rotate the wheel down a little bit, and then how to button that all up and find the right position for you. Now, this bracket is the standard bracket. There is a extended bracket that will lower it even farther, but I don't think that's going to suit me because I am a relatively tall guy. It might, I have been told a few times that the videos make me look kind of short, but I am actually 6'1". So there are some limitations in terms of how low the steering wheel can be and also still be comfortable. So let's hop out to the car and we will start installing this. Now, installing this bracket is not especially difficult or complex. Effectively, you have your existing bracket here. Now you can see this is a Mark I style bracket, so it's a little bit thicker, and then you have this rounded clamping surface that goes around your actual column. Now the idea is that this goes in its place and allows you to lower it either 1 or 2 steps lower than the stock height. You can see the existing hole at the top of this bracket here is the same height as the existing hole on your Mark I bracket or whatever bracket you have. Now removing this, pretty straightforward. There's 2 bolts right underneath here that you'll want to unbolt. If you have a big dash like I do here, you might find that it's a little bit more difficult because you do need to get in and hold those bolts on the back side. So my dash will need to, this panel right here will need to come undone. And then we'll need to pull the carpet back and loosen the U-bolts that hold the steering column in there. Because you have a steering column and right now it's being held tightly in place, which you want, obviously. And in order to adjust this and put it at a different height for, how high this wheel is, you will need to loosen it so that the whole steering rack can rotate. And that will keep you from putting too much strain on your steering rack, and it'll allow you to get a nice, good adjustment until you have it exactly where you want it to be. This is not a ton of adjustment. I mean, you're not like rotating this all the way around or anything. It's just a couple inches depending on where you put it. Now you can see my driving position where I'm at right now puts this wheel kind of high up. And ideally, I would want this maybe just 1 notch lower than it currently is. The nice thing is that my bracket here needs to be replaced anyway because it's really, really old and kind of tatty and ratty. I could repaint this, or I could give myself this additional adjustment, which I'll be doing. So let's get this panel off, and then this will be able to lower down just a little bit. It'll be nice. In fact, we might even be able to put the seat back farther, which will be really, really nice. A little bit more comfortable for big old me. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that if you have an earlier style Mark I, like I do, this bracket that just came off actually slides in between the bracket for your pedal box and the parcel shelf here. So you do need to remove the bolt entirely before this will slide out. Now with that out of the way, the next thing we need to do is loosen up those U-bolts. You don't want to completely take them apart, because if you do, you're going to end up having to redo your steering rack. So just make sure you're only loosening them just a little bit so this moves a little bit freer. Now your U-bolt connections here are right next to the pedals and on the other side opposite those pedals. So really where the pedals would be, whether it's left-hand drive or right-hand drive, and they're in a vertical line up and down. So we'll go ahead and loosen those up. Now you'll see with these disconnected, you have a ton more lateral movement here on your steering rack, and keep in mind that the whole column is also going to want to move. So just make sure that you keep it upright for your new steering bracket, and we're going to go ahead and reinstall our steering bracket here. So that'll go back in between, in my case, the pedal box and the body of the car, and man, that already looks a million times better. All right, and you'll find that getting that bolt in there is probably a little difficult, at least the first one. The second one should go in a little bit easier, especially if you have a lot more access to the top side of the parcel shelf. Those two in place, what I would go ahead and do is tighten that back up so that it's held in place while you do the final adjustment of your steering wheel up and down and into its final position. All right, now with the panel back in place here and this bracket securely mounted, looking really good, the last thing that we got to do is find the driving position that suits us best. Now, I am going to only go down one notch, I think. Go ahead and slide the bolt through here, and what we're going to do is test fit this before we cinch it down and say for sure that this is where we want it. This is the most important part because this is your personal preference. And some people might like the steering wheel really, really low, and others, like myself, might not want it that low. Now I really encourage you to go ahead and put the carpet back down where it normally would go, or pretty close to, even though your steering column is not totally in place yet and tightened up, so that you can try your new steering position. So I can say for sure that this location is good for me. At least for right now. I'm going to give it a shot, give it a go for a while. And it is still a little close to my knees here, but it does bring it down so that I can set my seat back a lot farther, which makes things a lot more comfortable in terms of like driving position overall. Obviously, you guys can see my feet are enormous, so no matter what I do, it is still a Mini at the end of the day. So, last thing that we got to do, tighten up this bolt here, and then we got to tighten up the bolts down here on our steering rack, and then we'll be done. All right, so that is going to wrap up the steering column drop bracket installation video. If you guys have any questions about this at all, feel free to post them in the comments section below. Also, if you want to pick up this bracket, check out JB Fabrication. Really great guy. He makes all sorts of custom fabricated stuff, including a third brake light for the Classic Mini, which I did a video installation on about a week ago. If you want to check that out, that should be popping up in the corner. And I want to say a huge thank you to him. This is not a sponsored video. I did purchase these things myself. However, I want to say a huge thank you for shipping these to the US. If you guys want to pick one up, or if you're outside of the UK, I would drop him a line and he might be willing to ship you one as well. So thank you for that. And until I see you guys on the next episode, you know the drill. Enjoy those minis and motor on.